Hey, I'm John Gordon with Positive University, and today my guest is Dana Cavalea. Dana, I've known you for about a year now, and just learning how to pronounce your last name, which is a good,
Okay.
which is a good thing. But you were for years the New York Yankees strength and performance coach, won a World Series championship with them. Have a new book out now called Show the book actually.
Habits of a Champion.
Yep, Habits of a Champion. I love this book. I love this title. Tell me why you decided to write this book in the first place.
Well, for me, in my journey, I got a chance to meet some really great people, from coaches to players to CEOs, executives, and leaders. And, honestly, I was, as a coach, reading a lot of different books. Obviously, I get a lot of value from reading your books. But a lot of books I would read, I didn't connect to. And I knew that a lot of people, especially in the sports world, didn't connect either to some of the messaging that was out there. And I wanted to create a book that, number one, shared my experiences of success and failure and put it all in one place in very simple, easy to read lessons that were practical. And they weren't, classroom and textbook. It was really on-field, practical application. And, you can open the book anywhere and gain value.
So take us back to the beginning. How does one become the strength and performance coach for the New York Yankees?
Well, you're not a good player. And that's actually how I started. I always say I was an underachieving baseball player that needed a lot of coaching to maximize my own personal talent. And, I realized in my journey that I realized the power of coaching and the difference between bad coaching and really good coaching. And, I was able to enhance my performance and really get every ounce of out of the sponge, just by great coaching and great direction. So I didn't make it to the pros. That was my goal, but I found an alternative route. And I started as an intern at the University of South Florida down in Tampa, and started working with the football team there. And actually, I came down from New York. Me and you grew up in a very similar, environment on Long Island, and I couldn't wait to get out of the cold weather. But I heard the Yankees were hosting their spring training down in Tampa. It made my choice to head down to school there that much easier. And to be honest with you, when the Yanks would come to town in February, I would go up to spring training. I'd be taking pictures through the chain link fence with my camera phone. And believe it or not, one day after doing that, the strength coach at the University of South Florida said, "Hey, Dana, I got a call from the Yankees strength guy, and he basically needs someone to hand out towels, clean the weight room, and watch the weight room when he's not there. Is that something you'd be into?" And ironically, I said, "Yes, absolutely. I was just there yesterday." So I pull up to the stadium park. The lady behind the front desk says, "Are you Dana Cavalea?" I said, "Yeah." Puts a lanyard and a credential around my neck. I go into the clubhouse. I get in my Yankee gear. And next thing you know, that same field I was taking pictures of the day earlier with Derek Jeter and all these guys, I'm right in the middle of it. Right in the middle of team stretch, 19 years old, fresh off the boat from New York. And my life changed really that quickly.
So you're 19 years old. You're now working with the New York Yankees. What happens next?
Ooh, what happens next is, the Yankees leave and they go back north, and they don't take me with them because I'm still in school. I have another, 2 years in school. So I go over with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I start working with them when the Yanks are gone, and I start working with the Toronto Blue Jays at night with a short season team. So I got a chance to stay in baseball while I was completing my schooling. So I was creating my post-school opportunities while I was still in school.
How did you do that? How did you connect with the Pirates and then the Blue Jays after working with the Yankees?
You know what, John? I had nothing to lose as a 19-year-old guy, and I made the calls that now I'd probably overthink a little bit. But I just picked up the phone. I shot emails. I showed up. I did all those things that, with a renegade type mentality of, listen, I'm 19. I'm working at Busch Gardens part-time on the back of a tram, welcoming people to the park, and I had no desire to do that as a career. And I just had nothing to lose, and I just kept showing up. And that's the message I teach kids now when I speak. I just kept showing up. And so I in the summer would go back to New York, and I went to high school, Mount Sinai High School, and I would literally be training kids, exchanging my time for cash on the school football field, teaching them how to get faster and stronger, just because I wanted to be available. I guess I visualized that the call was going to come from Brian Cashman at some point. And actually 2 years, a year after I graduated, he called me and said, Dana, listen, I'd love to bring you on as an assistant. Is that something you'd be willing to do? And that was something I was definitely willing and wanting to do. So he gave me a shot. At that point, I was 23. And, I started that season as the assistant. And actually 2 months into that season, I became the head guy. And that was a whole nother exciting turn of events.
How did that happen?
Well, it was a hot and humid night in Texas. We were playing the Rangers. Phil Hughes was on the mound. He went 7 innings and was throwing a no-hitter. And actually, with 2 outs, he pulled his hamstring. He finished the pitch, pulled his hamstring. Before that, we'd actually had a series of hamstring injuries. So that next morning, Brian Cashman called in, the guy that I was working under, and actually let him go. And next thing you know, I got the call, and he says, Dana, can you come to my suite? And I was a nervous wreck. I had just been, given the title of assistant just a few months earlier. It was my dream. And he sits me down. He says, hey, I just want to let you know I let so-and-so go. And I want to ask you, would you be willing to be the interim head strength coach? So here I am, 23 years old, sitting in a suite that was, bigger than my parents' house. And I was flipped out by it. And I said, oh, yeah, absolutely, definitely. I was fired up, but I was composing myself. And as soon as I walked slowly to the door and gingerly, like I was Joe Cool, opened the door, made a right turn, and said, Dad, you're not going to believe this. I'm the head guy with the Yankees. It was like my dream come true, and I think it was his dream come true too. So I always say I found the fastest way to the big leagues and to become a starter.
and I love that. And your relationship with Cashman existed because you were interning there and got to know him through that role?
Yeah, I worked for free there for 3 years, and I worked for free, but I gained more knowledge than I ever would have been able to gain in any, business school or any program that was out there. So it was time well spent. And yeah, I developed the relationships with everybody. And I always feel if you can be a likable guy and you're not running around with a chip on your shoulder and like the world owes you something, you have a shot in this world. If you can put some hustle behind it and good work ethic and just be a people person. And that's what I was, and that's what I am.
Well, knowing you were also there to serve them and help them in any way. Was that part of your motto, your style and approach?
That's my style. And John, at 19 when I first started, I didn't know anything. I really brought very little value outside of cleaning and handing out towels and giving out water bottles. But what I did was, this was back in 2002 when like core training was just beginning. So I would literally go home and study as much as I can about the core. So when a player would come in, I'd say, hey, do you want me to take you through your core? And that's how I was able to serve them and provide some value. After that, I really had nothing else to give because I didn't know anything else. But I was able to at least open up that relationship and start to serve the servant leadership by giving what I knew.
And then obviously you learned a lot as you went along. Did you continue to study and learn about strength and training?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I have a degree in sports medicine, and every day I'm learning. Even now, just working on people from all different walks of life, athletes, authors, CEOs, executives. So it all comes together, and you get better just by putting in the hours and asking the questions while you're putting the hours in,
So what was it like working with Derek Jeter and Alex and all the various guys on the team and serving them, helping to get stronger and better? Did you love it?
Yeah, I definitely I love it. I loved it. And it was amazing to get to see what the greatest do and how they go about their business. And I was always trained from the school of, be the first one there and the last one to leave. I started to see these guys, they were the last ones there and the first ones to leave. But I also saw how calculated, how scheduled, and how precise and consistent they were in everything that they did. And I said, how many of us are wasting time, just by being there, but not actually doing, anything productive while we are there, and these guys, they'd come, they'd undress, they'd get in their training gear, and it would just be nonstop until the game ends, shower, and go. And
so you're saying they actually weren't there a long time, but they worked smarter, not longer.
Exactly. It was almost like the John Wooden theory of like planned practice. And it was that they would come, there was a clear beginning and a clear end, and they would be gone. And they'd execute every single day. They wouldn't miss. I say check the box. They check the boxes every single day. It's like, I don't feel like doing that today. You never heard that from the top players. Never. It's great.
What did you learn most from some of the players? What are some lessons that you learned that you can share?
Yeah, one of them that I put in the book was actually from Derek Jeter, and he said, listen, if somebody doesn't respect your time, they don't respect you. And he was really big on, scheduling something and being a man of his word and of your word to be there. If you say you're going to be there, you got to be there. That's it. And, one morning I was waiting for another player in the weight room that never showed. And Derek said, hey, I had Derek right after. And he said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm waiting for so-and-so, and they didn't come. And that's when he dropped that knowledge bomb on me. Hey, if they don't respect your time, they don't respect you. Case closed. And, Derek was a guy, he trained Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 o'clock. If he was even running 2 minutes late, he would give me a buzz, and let me know immediately.
What about Alex?
Same thing. In a lot of ways, same thing. Different guys, but different guys. Totally different guys.
So what are some other lessons that you learned from some of the other players? What are some of your favorites over the years that you learned from?
A guy like Reggie Jackson was somebody that told me, listen, Dana, you can't get there yet. And that's another story I put in the book. We were in the clubhouse in Boston, and it was late in the game on a Sunday night ESPN game, and I see Reggie walk in, and he's got this beautiful Rolex watch. And I said, wow, Reg, look at that watch. That's beautiful. And he said to me, Dana, listen, you can't get there yet. And he meant to teach me a lesson about, patience. And he says, it's not that you can't get there. It's just that you can't get there yet. So everything in life, there's a timeline that's associated with things, and it may not be your timeline, but do the work, show up every day, be consistent. And with that, over time, you'll start to achieve the things that you need to achieve and you're meant to achieve. It's just not going to be on your timeline.
I love that. When you were working with a player, how did you help them get better? What was your focus? What was your approach?
Well, my focus is always first get to know who they are as individuals and who they are as people, and then I can do everything else. It's very hard to work on anybody and coach somebody and let them open up to you if you don't know who they are as a person. And I need to know who you are, what you're about, and just what makes you tick. Because in the work that I do, it's so personal, and it's so, I'm working with people, I'm touching their bodies, and I have to understand what leads to some of the issues that they have in their body. And I can only do that by getting to know somebody on a level that's, deeper than just, hey, how you doing? Good. And then walking away. It's so much deeper than that. And I'm a big question asker. I'm a big prober, and I'm a pain in the neck in a lot of ways, because I always want to know how you're doing. How are you doing? Because there may be something you say or how you say it that dictates how I treat you and how I work with you.
Yeah, you were real helpful for me this summer because I was going through my health challenges, and you kept on asking me a lot of questions, kept on checking on me, seeing how I was doing. And if you were doing that to your players, I can see how you made them better, because you really challenged me to focus on my health. You challenged me to focus on my well-being, putting my energy first, something I know, but something I forgot, right? You said, you say you're always giving, and if you're always giving and you don't refuel and recharge like an athlete, like a performer, you will have nothing left. You will be empty.
Exactly. If you keep driving, eventually you're going to need gas. and that's sometimes I take time and I always ask people, hey, how are you doing? Because they're so caught up in their own life that they forget to ask themselves, hey, how am I doing? That self-check-in. So I'm big on that. The text messaging and the email says just say, hey, even if it's a second, how am I doing? It's an important question to ask ourselves.
I know now you're doing a lot of speaking, sharing the message of habits of a champion and really talking about what makes great people great. You also talk about your work in the industry. I know you speak at a lot of different conferences like that. It must be rewarding, though, to be able to talk about your past and winning championships. What did that feel like, winning a championship as part of the team?
Yeah. It was such an amazing feeling. And, at first I was very hesitant because I don't want to live in the past, so when I speak, I don't want to just talk about my glory days. But I realized that, when you're talking about winning and winning championships, I mean, everybody wants to win and win championships. But that feeling that I had, I was a part of a team that was extremely selfless, and everybody picked each other up. Everybody, when somebody wasn't doing well or wasn't performing well, it was like everybody gravitated to that player and put their arm around them in their own way. And, throughout that year, we just kept getting it done because everybody kept picking each other up. And it was an amazing feeling. But, when we were in the dugout, or even prior to, I'll talk one more step about training. When we were in Philadelphia, we were playing, I want to say it was Game 5. I still had a full weight room of players. These guys approached Game 5 of the World Series the same way they did opening day in April. They all showed up. They all executed the plan. And they all delivered on what they were supposed to do. So we went out, we won in New York, but before that last out, it was such an amazing feeling just sitting in the dugout and watching this game unfold. Mariano Rivera's on the mound, ground ball to the infield, thrown to Mark Teixeira, and we win. And before that, what was cool, I took a look at the dugout, and I just saw everybody up on that top step. And you could just feel everybody's heart rate pounding, and you could feel all the fanfare behind you. And everybody was so excited that everything almost slowed down. And you watch that ball get hit, you watch that throw, and all of a sudden it was like, boom, the lights came on. And it was an amazing feeling. And I always say winning is such a great thing. And I feel like, it's great to talk about winning and the feelings and everything that comes with it. And, I just saw a group of guys that wanted to win more than anything, but win for the organization, win for their families, win for each other, and that's how we did it. It was amazing.
When you speak to a business, what do you talk about in terms of the habits of a champion?
Yeah, so I talk about I have 5 drivers of performance. It comes down to your mindset. It comes down to your training, how you're fueling yourself, how you're recovering from everything, and then your influence. So if you're taking care of yourself, like now you lost 15 pounds, you got yourself right. Somebody read what you wrote yesterday and you inspired them. And I always say that's the power of influence. It's like, hey, if this top performer can take care of himself, I should be doing that for me. So when I go into companies, I say, listen, we all want to win, win the quarter, hit certain numbers, but are you prepared to do that? Are you physically ready and mentally ready to do that? And I think that's a big question because business is the most competitive sport in the world and everybody's playing. The greatest minds in the world are playing business. Are you ready to play? Because if you have more energy, you can beat people just by being able to show up, with more energy every single day.
Yeah, I love that. I often say energy is the currency of personal and professional success.
Yeah.
And, if you don't have it, you can't share it. So I just love that you talk about that. That's powerful.
Yeah.
What are you excited about now? The book's come out. You're doing a lot of talks on it. You've won championships, but how are you moving forward? What are you excited about going forward?
Yeah, so the one thing I love about the book is that it catalyzes my speaking, and I'm able to go and talk with teams. I'm able to speak with companies. And then when I get there, the greatest reward for me is actually meeting the people in the room and getting to talk with them and coach them as individuals. So in addition to the book, in addition to my speaking, I actually am building more of a coaching agency where I'm able to coach people wherever they're at in their life and whatever they're needing help with, much like I did my players and do my players, and just helping people get over whatever that barrier is that they have in front of them that most likely they put in front of themselves, and helping them get over that. And I always lead with the physical self. What's going on with you physically? How can we get you rolling again? And then power you through your journey. So that's my passion. You know, it took me a while to figure out that that's it, but that's it.
I can attest you are a great coach because you've coached me and really made a difference. So I do appreciate that, Dana.
And you've coached me too, so it goes both ways.
Okay, I'll take that. So anyone ever make fun of your Long Island accent? Because I'm from Long Island, but your accent is much stronger than mine because I moved south. So I was Southernized in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I moved to Jacksonville. So I've been in the South a lot. You're still up north. So people give you a hard time about your accent?
You know what? I think it's a selling point. I don't even hear it anymore. But at the same time, no, not really. They bust my chops. You know, they call me Vinny Bag of Donuts here and there. But other than that, it's, you know, it's
real. It's real.
It's real. Exactly.
People love it. So what are some cities you've been to recently as you've been traveling around talking about the book and doing your tour?
Yeah, I just went to Burlington, Vermont, which is a pretty, cool place. It's pretty interesting. Little bit eclectic, great food. That was fun. I went up to Saratoga Springs, New York. That was a good time. There were no horses there this time of year, but that was great. So those were two fun places I was just at recently, and I'm going to be going up to Cortland State University, I think next week. Yeah.
Awesome. Who wrote the foreword to your book? Show it again.
Yeah, I was told I need to make that bigger, but it was Joe Girardi actually wrote the foreword to the book, and he just had some great principles that he shared about, his big thing is passion. You got to have passion, and Joe was always an underdog as a player. And he had to fight like hell to become what he became as a player. And I think he took a lot of that fight and applied it to his management skills and traits. So Joe he was always good to me. And it's always good to have a manager that loves to train and work out because, he always has your back.
And they appreciate it. I thought Joe was an incredible manager and leader. Am I right in my assessment on that?
Yeah, he's a high detail guy. Joe is on top of every single detail, and he doesn't miss with that. So you want to talk about preparation. I mean, preparation, like I've never seen before. So, and I got to work with two Joes. I got to work with Joe Torre as well. Two totally different managers, both successful. Joe Torre was more of like your godfather, grandfather kind of guy, put your arm around you, take you to lunch. And Girardi was kind of that old business, hard driver, let's go. Two different styles, both worked.
Both successful.
Yeah.
All right, Dan. Hey, thank you so much for joining me on Positive University. And I wish you all the best with the book and your future. And I know that you're going to impact a lot of lives. And I know your coaching is going to make an even greater difference because, as I said, it's impacted me. So thank you so much.
Thanks, John. Thank you.